I landed in Accra in 1957, and the first thing I noticed, nobody was whispering freedom anymore. People were saying it out loud, singing it, wearing it. A woman bumped my shoulder and said, "Sister, tonight we are not afraid." The air was thick with the scent of wood smoke and hope. Car horns were honking in rhythm to the drums. You couldn't walk a block without someone shouting freedom at the top of their lungs. But to understand why that silence was finally broken, we have to look at what this place was before it was Ghana. For over 80 years, the British Crown held the Gold Coast as a colony. It was a land of immense wealth, gold, cocoa, timber, but that wealth didn't belong to the people who tilled the soil. It was a source of riches for an empire across the sea, while the local voices were restricted and ignored. After World War II, the world changed, and so did the Gold Coast. A surge of nationalism swept the streets. Led by the Big Six, the call for self-governance became a roar that the British could no longer silence. Among them was Kwame Nkrumah. He didn't just want reform, he wanted self-government now. He broke away to form the CPP, championing a philosophy he called positive action. Positive action was a strategy of nonviolent protest, strikes, and non-cooperation. It was the same fire that would soon ignite the American South, and it made Nkrumah the most dangerous man in the eyes of the colonial administration. In 1950, they threw him into James Fort Prison for his defiance. But you can't jail an idea whose time has come. The bars only serve to turn a leader into a martyr, and then a legend. In 1951, while still behind bars, Nkrumah's party won a landslide victory in the first general elections. The British were forced to release him. He walked out of prison straight into the role of leader of government business. He and his ministers wore white caps with PG printed on them, short for prison graduate. It was a badge of honor, a symbol that they had paid the price for their people's freedom. This man beside me keeps pointing at the flagpole like it's a miracle. He says, "You see that? That one is coming down tonight." And I'm like, wait, the British flag? He smiles and says, "Yes, for the last time." By early March, the eyes of the entire world were on Accra. Dignitaries were flying in from every continent. The Duchess of Kent, Vice President Richard Nixon, and a young preacher from Alabama named Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King and Coretta had traveled far to be here. For them, this wasn't just a political ceremony. It was a pilgrimage to see the first sub-Saharan African nation liberate itself from European rule. At a reception on March 5th, Dr. King met Vice President Nixon for the very first time. It was a meeting that would echo back to the United States. King looked Nixon in the eye and said, "I want you to come visit us down in Alabama, where we are seeking the same kind of freedom the Gold Coast is celebrating." The irony wasn't lost on anyone in that room. That night, the polo grounds in Accra were overflowing. 500,000 people, a sea of humanity under the harsh spotlights, all holding their breath, waiting for the clock to strike 12. People were asking each other, how many minutes to freedom? The very air felt electric, charged with the weight of centuries of struggle and the promise of a new dawn. And then it happens. The old flag starts coming down, and the crowd doesn't just cheer, they erupt. A woman grabs my hand so tight, like if she lets go, history might slip away. And all I can hear is, "Freedom, freedom." It was a sound that shook the very earth beneath our feet. The Union Jack hit the ground, and up went the red, gold, and green. A new star was born in the African sky, and with it, a new hope for all of us. Red for the blood of those who died, gold for the wealth of the land, green for the rich forests, and that black star, the lodestar of African freedom, designed to guide the rest of the continent home. Kwame Nkrumah steps forward, and the whole place holds its breath. He says Ghana is free forever, but then he says their freedom means nothing unless all of Africa is free. And suddenly I understand. This wasn't just independence for one country. This was a signal flare for the world. At long last, the battle has ended. His voice boomed over the speakers. Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever. He spoke of a new Africa, ready to fight its own battles and manage its own affairs. As those words echoed, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stood in the crowd and wept. He later said he began crying for joy because he understood the struggle, the pain, and the agony that had led to that singular moment. King saw the undeniable parallel. He knew that the fight against British imperialism in Africa and the fight against Jim Crow in the American South were two branches of the same tree, the tree of human dignity. He realized a hard truth that he would carry back to Alabama. Freedom is never given. It must be worked for. The people of Ghana hadn't waited for permission to be free. They had demanded it. The celebrations continued for days. At the state ball, the Duchess of Kent famously danced with Nkrumah. It was more than a dance. It was a symbolic shift in the global hierarchy, a public acknowledgement of a new reality. There was a Miss Ghana competition, traditional regattas in the harbor, and fireworks that painted the sky in the colors of the new republic. The African personality was being celebrated in every corner of the capital. The morning headlines read, "Our beloved country is free forever." The Gold Coast was gone, buried under the weight of history. Ghana had arrived and the world would never be the same. Nkrumah's vision was pan-African. He believed that if Africa did not unite, it would perish. He opened Ghana's doors to freedom fighters from across the continent, turning Accra into a hub for revolution. He spoke of the African personality, a call for Africans to define their own identity, to reject the mental chains of colonialism, and to speak with their own voice on the world stage. When King returned to America, he delivered a sermon titled "The Birth of a New Nation." He told his congregation that he had seen a vision of what was possible. He said the forces of the universe are on the side of justice. He linked the independence of Ghana directly to the struggle in Montgomery and Birmingham. He showed his followers that they weren't alone, that they were part of a global movement for liberation. Nkrumah's positive action became a psychological blueprint for the American movement. If it could work against the British Empire, it could work against Jim Crow. Nonviolence was proven as a weapon of the strong. In the years that followed, the wave Ghana started became a tsunami. Dozens of African nations followed their lead. The wall of colonialism was crumbling, brick by brick, across the entire continent. The Black Star continues to shine today. It's on the jerseys of the national team, the hulls of the ships, and in the hearts of millions. It remains the lodestar of African dignity and self-reliance. Today, the Independence Arch stands as a testament to that night in 1957. It's a reminder that freedom isn't a destination, but a constant journey that requires vigilance and courage every single day. The legacy of Nkrumah and King lives on in a new generation, a generation that is ready to fight its own battles and show the world that the Black man is indeed capable of managing his own affairs. As we look back at that night in Accra, we are reminded that history is not something that happens to us. It is something we make. Ghana wasn't just whispering freedom, it was shouting it for the whole world to hear. Kwame Nkrumah steps forward and the crowd goes still. He says Ghana is free forever. But then he says their freedom means nothing unless all of Africa is free. And I swear it felt like the entire continent heard him.